Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this brief webinar on the brand new Syngene InGenius 5 system that we've been developing over the last few months. And we're delighted to be able to share this product with you in the first live webinar that we're doing to our customer base and to some of our distribution partners. So it's worth saying that on the presentation here today, we do have a mixture of distributors and end user customers. You'll notice at the top of the presentation, there is a Q&A section. So if you do have any questions that arise during the webinar, please feel free to add these into the Q&A and we'll be happy to cover those at the end of the session. But what I wanted to do was really just give you guys an overview of this brand new system that we've just introduced, and it's live now, available for purchase. So the InGenius 5 is a new basic gel dock system that will go live into our range of imaging systems that Syngene manufacture. It does come in at the low end because it has a manual camera, and by a manual camera, I mean we're doing all of the controls of the camera manually. We're opening and closing the iris, adjusting the zoom, and adjusting the focus manually, as you would do on a standard SLR lens. So I'll give you a quick run through of a few bits on the hardware, and then we'll spend a little bit of time showing the brand new software. So InGenius 5, this will replace our InGenius 3 product as our entry-level basic gel dock system. In terms of the hardware, what we have is our 5 million pixel CMOS camera that sits on top of an f1.4 manual lens. So as you can see here, we have full control of our iris, our zoom, and our focus. The great thing about working with this on the system is that when you're working live, you can see your image live on the unit. But in terms of elements that you touch on the system, that's the only part. A huge difference now compared to the old style InGenius 3 that this will replace is that we no longer have any buttons on the front for controlling the lighting. All of the lighting controls are done via the software, where we tell the system what lighting conditions we want, and then the software will drive the hardware. As I open the door, you'll see that we have our slide in, slide out transilluminator. Another difference between the InGenius 5 is that we're actually working on a smaller footprint. So the old style InGenius 3 was slightly wider, actually the same height, but we've managed in terms of imaging, we've actually managed to be able to image a larger viewing area in a smaller footprint unit. So we can visualize a 20 by 24 viewing area. And inside the system here, I have a 20 by 24 UV transilluminator. As with all of our systems, the UV transilluminator is an optional item because you may choose to purchase a 20 by 20 or a 20 by 24 centimeter unit that will fit inside this system. But we also have shortwave, medium, and longwave transilluminators, so you can pretty much build the system to whatever your requirements may be. Because we're using a UV transilluminator, the system, of course, is designed to be safe. So if I have UV activated, the UV will turn off automatically. As you can see inside the system, I have epi-white lights built in as standard. It's also worth saying that another new feature that we have on the InGenius 5 is the ability to capture stain-free gels. So for stain-free gels, the UV light will be turned on for a specific amount of time and then capture the image. Stain-free gels have become much more popular over the last few years, and in order to capture a stain-free gel, we do require a UV transilluminator. But the new software has the stain-free capability built in as standard. Of course, for customers wanting to work with visible protein dyes, we still have our white light converter screen that we've always had before. Again, this is an optional item that can sit on top of the transilluminator. And if customers are wanting to work with longer wavelength dyes, we have the blue transilluminators, the blue converter screen. If you wanted to run the system from a blue transilluminator, then of course we have that as an option also. For those customers who want to do any cutting of their DNA bands, then we have the ability within the software to override the UV safety function. So again, if a customer's thinking about wanting to do that in the future, or if they have a requirement for cutting out any bands, then we have a physical connection here, which we have to pull out, and then the software, there are actually two functions that we have to go through in order to activate the UV override. But the system itself, straight from the box, there are only simply two leads in the back, one connection to the camera and one connection to the dog room. So it's very, very simple to set up. Another difference worth pointing out when comparing to the old style InGenius is the fact that we now have a full solid door. It means the system is a lot more robust. It gives us full access inside the unit for positioning our gels, rather than the old style sliding door that we used to have on the InGenius 3. So it's a much more robust system. In terms of hardware, that's pretty much it on the system. So we have our camera, a USB to the PC to control, and a USB from the back of the system into the PC as well. So two USB ports are required on your PC. The PC does not have to be supplied by us. Customers are free to use their own PC, no problem at all. So the only thing that's required with the InGenius 5 is the system itself, and then your choice of transilluminator, and then if you require any additional accessories, depending on your application. So you may need a white converter screen or a blue converter screen, entirely up to you. Also worth pointing out, comparing it to the old style system, is we no longer have a UV filter drawer. The UV filter is actually screwed onto the front of the lens, but should you require to change that lens for any reason, maybe you are working with a dye that excites with a longer wavelength, then we can simply unscrew the UV filter from the front of the camera and replace it, for example, with a short pass filter that may be required for those longer excitation dyes. But super simple to do that. And again, we've just tried to remove anything that can kind of go missing from the system, which used to happen with the old sliding door version. So what I'll do now is I'm going to move you over and show you the new software. This is a really important addition with the InGenius 5, is that we are releasing brand new software with the system exclusively for the InGenius 5. One of the criticisms that we had with older systems, such as the InGenius 3, was that the software had too many features. So what we've tried to do, because it's a basic system, is really strip this right back, make it a super simple system to utilize, so the learning curve for an end user is absolutely minimal. So what I'll do is I'll just share my screen. And I'll move over to the InGenius software. So when we fire up the system, this is our home page. So you can see that we have capture an image or edit image. Edit image allows us to open up any images that we have stored on the PC, or if you wanted to access, of course, a USB stick, that's no problem at all. Then I simply click on capture an image. This now will take me to my live page. And on here, I can place my gel inside, and hopefully you can see that I'm under white light. You can see the positioning of my gel. If I close the door too, I now have a simple drop down where I can select my lighting options. So I can either have a UV transilluminator, upper white light, the visible converter screen, the blue converter screen, or I can have no light at all. So if I select the UV transilluminator, by selecting that, we're now working with a live image. The UV is turned on. If I need to change anything on the image, so if I need to zoom in or zoom out, you can see live on the screen there that my image is changing. So if I do need to make any adjustments, if I need to open or close the iris, I can also do this. But I'm doing that manually and I'm working live. On the screen over this side, I have my exposure time. So again, if I want to increase the exposure time, you'll see the image change as I increase the exposure time, or I can manually type in a specific exposure time if that's what I wish. As we're looking at our exposure time, I also have my saturation detection, which will show me if the image is saturating. If it shows up in red, the image is saturating. And if I want to quantify my image, it's important that I don't saturate the image. So again, I can either reduce the exposure time, or I may actually have to go in and adjust the iris. But simply by changing the exposure time there, I now have no saturation, which means when I captured my image, I can then go on to quantify. So once I'm happy, I can capture my image. It will capture the image. Once it's captured, it will turn off the UV light for me automatically. And you'll notice at the bottom now, it indicates the image has been captured with an exposure time of 0.02 seconds. Also worth pointing out that we have the same functionality that we've always had within the units. So we can still extend the dynamic range. So as native, this is a 12-bit camera, so it will capture 4095 grayscales. But we can extend that dynamic range to take it up to a 16-bit image, which will give us 65,535 grayscales. If you're looking to differentiate between small amounts of DNA or protein on your sample, then using the increased dynamic range can help. And we also have our dynamic fielding, and we use dynamic fielding whenever we're looking at visible proteins. So if we capture an image, it will capture a blank with a white surface and give us a really nice clean image at the end. But once we've captured our image, I can save my image. And you'll see that I can now save in a standard Windows format in either a TIFF, JPEG, or bitmap file. I can save manually. If I just save this manually, MB1, it tells me that the image has now been saved and the image path for that image is shown below. If your system is connected to a printer, then of course you can also print directly to wherever you wish, whether it's a network printer or any printer that's connected to your PC. So because we're working on a PC, it doesn't necessarily have to be a thermal printer. But of course, that's still there as an option. So we've saved our image. Worth showing up here that we also have a digital zoom. I can reset. I've got my saturation detection, which again will show me nothing because I captured an image with no saturation. And I can also invert the image. Once we've captured our image and we've saved our image, worth saying as well before I move on, we can actually set the system to do auto saves as well, where every image that we capture will be saved automatically and sequentially to a location that we predefine. And that could all be set up in the settings page. Once we've captured, I can move across to my image editing page where the image stays live, and now I can edit. So I can adjust the image, I can smooth the image, I can sharpen the image, I can change the image to make it lighter, or I can make the image darker. So I can make any changes very quickly and easy to the image. And then at the end, I can reset them back to my original image that we captured. If I make any changes to the image, then of course you may want to then save the image and save it maybe with a different name. Again, your choice entirely. I could adjust the rotation of the image, and again, rotate that back. And rotating the image might be very useful. Maybe, for example, if you're capturing a very large gel, you maybe have to position at 90 degrees, capture your image, and then rotate it around. Very, very easy to do that on the InGenius 5. And again, I can save my image. Now, if I want to do any annotations on the image, I simply click across to the text page and then I can annotate my image very quickly and easily by simply adding the text. I can choose the color of the text, and of course I can choose my annotation size. So making annotations on the image, very, very quick and easy to do. I just change the size of that box, and then I can add multiple texts simply by changing. So again, if you're routinely doing a molecular weight ladder, you may want to then just do a quick annotation, or some labs just purely want to put a date and time on there. Now, when we save the image in this situation, we would want to export the image with the annotations included. So we now actually have two options. We can save the image as we captured it, or with any changes to the image, or we can export it with the annotations included. So again, you have that option of what you want to do with your image. Within this page as well, we also have the option to open up any images that maybe we've saved previously. And again, we could do any editing on here as well. Now, in terms of usage, they are the main functions of the InGenius 5. As I mentioned, we've tried to keep this as simple and as easy to use as possible. So the learning curve for anyone that's new to gel documentation is super simple. You know, they don't need extensive training on how to capture a really nice image. On the top bar here, I can return back to my home page, but I also have a settings page. And my settings page will give me a few different options. So I can enable my autosave just here. I can tell the system to automatically start up on the capture page, again, if we want to make things even quicker. Touchscreen friendly view, that just replaces some of the text with icons. So again, we're looking at adding this potentially to other systems in the future that may utilize a touchscreen version. Also, you'll notice here that we have our UV safety. So the UV safety in the settings, we would actively have to come into the settings page to select permit override. Once that is selected, if I try and open the door with the UV light on, I will get a prompt on the screen to say, are you sure you want to have the UV light turned on with the door open? So again, if that's not checked, then we would never see that message come up on the screen. And I also have the option for the system to give me prompts for saving. So if I try and move between screens and if I haven't saved an image, then it gives me the choice to do this. But in terms of functionality, that is a very brief overview of what the InGenius 5 can do. As we say, it's designed to be a simple to use system with minimal training required, but producing the highest quality of images, which is required for the modern molecular biology lab. So what I'll do now is I'll stop sharing and revert, if you bear with me 1 second. I'll close this down. And we'll go to we'll see if we have any Q&As, any questions coming from our question board. There we go. I'm just trying to see how I can stop sharing this, guys. Bear with me 1 second. Stop sharing. There we go. So Q&A. Question from Florian there. Is the software 21 CFR compliant? No, it isn't. For us to have the 21 CFR compliant software, Florian, we would be looking at moving up to the higher end systems, for example, such as the Gbox F3 LFB, units that are utilizing the Genesis software platform. But for the InGenius 5, no, it wouldn't be 21 CFR compliant. Do we have any more questions coming in? I'm happy to take any more. I feel like I've skipped through very quickly, but that's the kind of system that the InGenius 5 is. It's very quick and easy to use. So hopefully I've covered most of the questions that may come up. Let me just have a quick look to make sure I haven't missed anything out. The system will also come with our full version of Gene Tools. So for any analysis, for example, colony counting, gel analysis, spot plots, dot plots, molecular weight calculations, quantity calculations, they will all be done in our Genesis package. Again, we didn't want to overload the entry-level units with quantitation software, but that will be included free of charge with all of our systems, as it always is. Will the price be similar to the InGenius 3? Yes. We've tried to keep it as close as we can to the current InGenius 3. There is a slight change in price because we're now working with a slightly different lens, but the original InGenius 3 did not have the stain-free capability. So by increasing the viewing area, changing the camera, the lens, so that we can now visualize the stain-free gels as standard on the system, the pricing is a little bit higher, but not dramatically so. Do we have any more questions coming in, or are these questions coming in through chat? Yeah, what I'll also do is that we have a basic launch presentation that I'll attach onto the into the presentation just now. If I can work out how to do that. A question there from Lou. Can we save in an SGD format? No, again, similar to the new Genius, Lou, we just have the ability to save as a TIFF, JPEG, or BMP format, again, for the basic system. If you require the SGD format, then you would need to move up now to the Gbox F3 LFB. And can you save the annotation templates? No, unfortunately not with this system. Again, we've tried to make it as simple, as quick and easy to use as possible. So I'll add the presentation into this, if I can. Let me find out how I do that, and then you guys can all have the presentation at the same time. And this is basically the presentation that hopefully will cover all of the major points in here. So if I close that down, and excuse you looking at the back of my head, I'm just going to see how I can actually get a link to that. I'm going to copy that here. And paste that into the presentation there, which again is not working. There we go. Oh, and Kirsty's put a link up there, which gives you a link to the web page as well. For some reason, it's not allowing me to copy and paste that into the presentation. But if any of you want a full presentation of the InGenius 5, then please feel free to drop me a quick email. I'll be happy to post it onto you afterwards. So unless there are any more questions, I'm going to thank you all for your attention, and we've managed to keep that under the 30 minutes, which is what I'd hoped to do. So I want to wish you all a fantastic day. And again, if you have any questions at all about this great new product, then please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to help. Okay, thank you all very much for your attention. Cheers now, take care, bye-bye.